Hello, and welcome to The Fuse and the Flint, where technology, innovation, and development intersect in exciting ways. I'm Agustin Sanchez, Principal Designer here at 8thLight, and joining me is Tosin, Lead Product Manager at 8thLight. We appreciate you tuning into the latest episode of The Fuse and the Flint, an 8thLight production. Whether you're a tech leader, a product visionary, or simply someone passionate about the future of software, we're thrilled to have you with us. In today's episode, we're diving deep into product-led growth, PLG, a transformative approach reshaping the landscape of customer acquisition and engagement. We'll unpack what it means to truly let your product lead, driving not only growth, but lasting impact for your users and your business. Tosin and I had such a great conversation. We're splitting this into 2 episodes. Let's jump in. Tosin, thanks so much for joining. How are you doing today?
Hi, Agustin. So excited to be here with you today, talking about PLG or product-led growth. And I'm hoping we have a great conversation. I'm sure we will.
Oh, I have no doubt of that. So, for our listeners, can you introduce what PLG is and how it acts as a strategic growth driver?
Absolutely. Product-led growth, or PLG, as it's more socially acronymized, is a strategy where the product itself drives customer acquisition, retention, and expansion. So your basic growth levers. It's a shift away from traditional sales or marketing-led approaches, and it focuses instead on delivering an exceptional user experience that turns your product into a most effective growth engine. And by that, I mean, in essence, you have a product that sells itself. That's kind of, in general, how I would describe it if I was in an elevator and I needed to do so. In terms of business impact, there are many ways that PLG can impact a business. I think the first and one of the more interesting ways is how PLG accelerates your sales cycle. With PLG, the sales cycle often shortens because the product takes center stage in educating and demonstrating value to users. And a popular example I love to use here is Canva. You sign up for the first time and you intuitively know what to do because you have step-by-step instructions on how to proceed through the process. And so instead of spending weeks on demos or negotiations, your customers can try the product directly. And whether it's through a free trial, a freemium model, or a sandbox environment, this hands-on experience builds trust and accelerates decision-making as users quickly see the return on investment for themselves. So they immediately see value. Another way that product-led growth drives business impact is by lowering your customer acquisition costs. By allowing the product to do much of the heavy lifting, companies can reduce reliance on expensive outbound sales or paid advertising. So with a well-designed product, with viral features built in or in-product referrals, it naturally attracts more users. And this is essential, especially if you're shifting some of your marketing budget into creating an outstanding user experience, which will in turn then fuel organic growth. And I'll mention maybe just a couple more, lifetime value and ROI. I think for lifetime value, it's just such a key and integral part of product-led growth because it ensures that customers experience ongoing value from the product, which leads to higher retention rates and opportunities for expansion. So when you're building features like tiered pricing or add-ons or usage-based billing, all of that allows you to grow revenue for your users or your customers as their needs evolve. So it's not a one price fix all. It's kind of you find what's suitable for your business at various stages of maturity. And the more you rely on your product, the higher their lifetime value becomes. And the last one I'll mention is just return on investment, which is what every business kind of wants to arrive at. Return on investment of PLGs is incredibly tangible. You can track metrics like trial to paid conversion rates, product activation rates, and customer retention to directly correlate your investments in product development with revenue growth. And so these data-driven insights make PLG initiatives highly measurable and iterative for any business.
Yeah, what really intrigues me about this is the user-centric approach to product development, putting the user at the center, their needs, and understanding and meeting them in the marketplace seems like just a huge differentiator to, all the things that you're talking about. Can you tell us about any trends, like things that you're seeing as a differentiator with that?
Absolutely. I think that with a user-centered approach, and you know this as a UX expert, when you build something, a human-centered design, and you build it with a deep understanding of who your customer is or that niche in the market is that you're targeting, I think that naturally unlocks intuitive use. And again, my favorite example, which I think I will use several times in this episode, is Canva. I don't know a single person who's gone in there for the first time and has struggled to either create an Instagram post, a flyer for a small Christmas market, or whatever it is they're trying to do. It's so extremely built around the user that even if you're there for the first time, you're prompted through the steps you need to take. And they have this freemium model where you can go in and build the experience you want. All you need to do is sign up. You don't need to leave your credit card information. You sign up, you create your account, and you can download your designs immediately within 30 minutes. That's the result of a passion for their user, a deep understanding of that user. And I think it always shows when that's at play with any product or feature that we interact with.
No, that's so well said. One of the things is as you're building that product and that platform, in order to set that user at the center, I think that having, smaller feedback loops, understanding who your user is, where they're falling off, where they're getting frustrated. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of because I know, as you said, as a UX professional, as a product designer, getting that firsthand feedback from our users and understanding how to solve their pain points becomes an integral to moving things forward.
Absolutely. And I think it is one of the strengths of PLG is just how it naturally incorporates feedback loops. As users engage with any product or feature, their behavior generates data, right? So from when they sign up to when they drop off or when they complete a transaction or whatever that CTA is, that user behavior always generates data. And I think businesses, organizations that are passionate about their users are tracking this from the get-go. So from the entry point to the exit point, all of that's tracked. And I think qualitative feedback also reveals opportunities for improvement. So you have the raw data that shows you that user A is entering here and they're dropping off here. And you can draw inferences from that. But also you need qualitative data to show you we're not making assumptions about why they're dropping off, right? So you go to users and you ask them, what is the pain point in this process? We have our understanding based on the data that we've gathered. So sort of hearing directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. We want that qualitative feedback to reveal those opportunities for improvement. And I think that by continuously acting on this feedback and having a feedback to feature development pipeline, you can enhance usability and you can innovate faster. And whether that's by adding new features or refining onboarding, or by fixing pain points, you are naturally building a better experience for your user. And they will see it, they will know it, and they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, I love that. I know that, you mentioned hearing, straight from the horse's mouth, hearing that voice of the customer and understanding that your solution is ever evolving. Your product is not a fixed point in time.
Yeah.
It's not something that's going to solve everything for everyone at all points. And it will need to evolve and change is so crucial for product owners to understand. Because, I've had clients that are like, oh, okay, you get to the end of the project and they're like, oh, okay, this is done.
Yes.
Let's congratulate ourselves. But it's an ongoing process, and supporting a product is, it's an amorphous, best way to put it might be it's alive, right? It's something
Absolutely.
that you're nurturing and evolving as you go along.
I love the way you've said that. I don't think I've ever heard anyone put it that way, but that's the truth. It's alive. It doesn't get fed once a day and that's it. It's not one and a done. You just have to keep on doing it because it's growing. It should be growing. So I really love that analogy.
Yeah, it's almost like a sourdough starter that we all kind of tried to keep during 2020 when we were enclosed in four walls. Yeah, no. Can you talk about, I think that a lot of product leaders have silos. They have ways that they think about certain things. Can you talk about how PLG can be used to break those down? Absolutely.
I think in every organization I have worked in the past, teams just tend to be siloed. And I think that stems from each team having kind of their North Star metrics and their KPIs. And one of my favorite things to say is I feel like engineering and product should have the same kind of directors because then they have a unified North Star and unified metrics, and then they can actually be pulling in the same direction. But that's relatively controversial. I'll leave that conversation for another day. But I think that leadership roles in breaking down silos are crucial. Because I think change is very often top-down, but I think leadership plays a critical role in breaking down department silos for a successful PLG strategy. And I think this begins with clear communication of a PLG vision. and aligning every department. So that's product, marketing, sales, customer success around those shared goals like user engagement, activation, and retention. And I think leaders need to foster a collaborative culture where data and insights, and feedback and a free flow of ideas between teams is encouraged, and even that sometimes mandated. And I think a strong example is having, cross-functional OKRs, quarterly planning, or KPIs that everyone contributes to, such as improving time to value or boosting trial to paid conversion rates. And I love the idea of just having those co-KPIs, because then there is an interdepartmental dependency, right? It isn't a question of my department's met our KPIs and that's fine. It's we all win together or we lose together. So I think that's one of the ways leadership can play that role in fostering a PLG mindset. I think there are a number of success pillars, but we can get there as we build on the conversation. But I think some essential pillars for success in PLG are, unified data and insights, a user-centric culture, and just continuous experimentation and iteration, as kind of to your analogy of a living product that just needs to continue happening. And we can deep dive into that if you think we should, sort of flesh out that conversation.
I honestly would. I think that the positioning PLG as an alignment tool for a cross-functional team is just really interesting. And I guess it depends on how mature the organization is, right? Like a very mature organization will have some of these things in place. They might already be on the road. And PLG is something that can act as a way to shore up any loose ends.
That's a good point.
But if you're, I guess less evolved or, just starting out, not sure how to transform your business towards something that's more evolved, something like PLG can act as a roadmap. It can be a way to really find your footing and understand how to move forward and evolve your product to meet market needs.
Absolutely. And I think that's the core of PLG. It's that it's not a tactic. It's a strategic decision and a way of being. And I think for a company or business to kind of cultivate a product-first mindset for its long-term success, it needs to do a couple of things. And I can briefly go into some of what those are. I think there has to be a shift from a process-centric approach to a product-first thinking approach. And by that, I mean like a company has to move away from process centricity to product-first thinking. And that requires a cultural and an operational shift. And that starts by reframing the company's goals around user success, not just internal efficiency. Teams have to ask themselves the question, how does this decision improve the customer experience or outcomes? And I think processes need to be enabled and encouraged that foster innovation rather than stifle it. And that kind of goes back to that feedback loop, right? Teams need to be encouraged to be more agile over being rigid. And I know agility is something that's very often used in software development, but systems and mechanisms need to be built into place where ICs are at liberty to express their agility and to express their innovative ideas and thoughts, even if there's a strategy in place, even if there's a plan, even if there's a goal. And we find better ways of working as we are on the project. I don't think that should be stifled. And I also think, considering starting with a pilot team that embodies this mindset, then use their success as a blueprint for broader transformation across companies, a great way to kind of roll this out across any size or any scale or maturity stage of a business. The second point I'll make is around, focusing on customer-centric innovation. I think a product-first mindset demands aligning the entire organization around a long-term product vision that delivers value to its customers. At the same time, you also need to remain agile to respond to user insights, right? So again, back to that feedback loop. And I think a great example is during roadmap planning, it should be dynamic and it should be incorporating feedback from customers around, usage data and direct feedback. And by doing this, you're creating a culture where innovation is guided by real needs, ensuring that your product continues to deliver meaningful value over time. And the final point I'll make here is just around the role of leadership in driving this shift. And again, I said earlier, I think a lot of this strategic shift has to be top down. Leadership is the linchpin in this transformative process. Leaders must be seen to set the tone by championing a vision that's both customer-focused and adaptable. And this, in practical terms, means, communicating on how the product serves the user and setting expectations that agility is a part of the organization's DNA. It's a way we do things. It's a way of being. And leaders should also model the behaviors they want to see. So being open to experimentation and encouraging teams to iterate quickly based on customer feedback, and be seen to actually action these insights as they come to them. And that way they embody the change they're asking the organization to make. And I think that kind of encapsulates how I see a company cultivating PLG as a strategy rather than a tactic.
Yeah, well said. Thanks so much, Tosin. Thanks for joining us on The Fuse and the Flint. We hope today's conversation ignited your curiosity, inspiring you to think differently about technology and its capability to transform. Subscribe and stay connected for part 2 of our conversation on product-led growth, and visit us at 8light.com for more information. Until next time.